Ladies and gentlemen, we are back again with another show. And on today's show, we have a guest who is, first of all, an advocate, and second of all, an executive. So he'll be taking us through his journey, but we will start with introductions. So please introduce yourself.
I'm Edward Sigei. I'm the Executive Director, Kenya Copyright Board. And according to the show, the title of the show, Wakili, a quick one. I'm also a Wakili. That's why these two gentlemen have come to speak to me.
Yeah.
Sasa, Mr. Sigei, hii safari yako ulianza wapi? Where were you? Let's forget about primary school. Kidogo tu unaweza guzia kama ulienda Alliance, it's a big institution. So you can notify people where you went to high school, then campus, and then KSL.
Now you've taken away a big chunk of my life.
Okay, so no. You can start as early as you want to start.
Mimi ni mtu wa Kericho, Kericho County.
Yeah.
Nimesomea Ushago, where we were going to school barefoot. Really for 8 years. I was in the second lot of KCPE. Then I transitioned from the village school to school, not really Alliance, but close to Alliance. It's called Dago High School. Dago. So Dago,
Is it Dago Ditches?
Ditches is the name we used to. So that is but we also used to call it Dago. Yeah. So it's a school with has brought in a number of high-profile people. So I know people by virtue
of having gone to Ditches.
Then after that, I took some time off schooling. After a few years, I went to study for my law degree, both bachelor's and master's in India. And then I came back, went to School of Law. That time the School of Law was here in Valley Road.
The dental school?
Yes.
The dental school, no?
Yes. And my director was actually
The acting age.
The current
AG.
Yes, he was the director of the school. He had just replaced the late Justice Sigei. So we had that was a very nasty experience. School, Kenya School of Law was not a place to joke around because we used to have a lady lecturer there who used to teach land law. I think she was called Mrs. Maswa. We would arrive in the morning panting from the exertions of the transport, and then we would find that she's telling us, leave your books there. She has set the place for surprise test. And she would announce the score. She used to have a few pet peeves, people she really hated. One of whom was KeCoBo. I don't know. And Mwenje's daughter. She used to pick on those ones. But generally, an unexpectedly short stay there, although that land law messed me up a few times. So in 2005, that is when I got my admission. I think that was Gishero time. Gishero. So then I wandered around. I've done a lot of things. Been an administrator somewhere in government, then state council, then finally I was brought here and sometimes I call it destiny. That this was the course that I undertook in my for my LLM, intellectual property.
Yeah.
So somehow I came to where I was.
Destined to be. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we've been here from day one. Kenya Copyright Board. We started as a section in the AG's office.
Yeah.
Then we delinked and became a state agency.
Yeah.
So I've been there through that process. I've seen it grow, stabilize, progress, and I'm happy where we are. As you can see, I'm the second CEO of this office.
Yeah.
I've now served close to 6 years. So you can say that I'm due to move on. That will be soon enough. By 2024, you will not see me here. Yes.
Right. Okay, let's talk about training. So after Kenya School of Law or during Kenya School of Law, where were you doing your pupillage?
I did my pupillage in Kericho. Actually, let me put it more bluntly, because it's a problem that most lawyers face.
Yeah.
I didn't get a place to do my pupillage.
In Nairobi.
Yes. So I went to an old advocate in Kericho called Chelule. He's now semi-retired, but I think he still runs his practice in Kericho town.
Yeah.
So and I think these are crises that we are facing. Imagine 3,000 or 2,000 lawyers who want to do pupillage with the law firms we have, which are like 10 feet by 10 feet office. They are qualified, but they are unable to host a student. I can imagine the crisis now that we have, looking for pupillage. So then, so I did my pupillage there, and I really appreciate those who host students, because the work of pupil master is very difficult. And so every time I see an application here for pupillage, I really wish I could accommodate as many as possible, because it's a nightmare. I know. Nowadays it involves parents. And nowadays we used to try on our own.
Hold on. What do you mean it involves parents?
Yeah, parents now
look
call
for their
me.
friends.
They call me
Friends of the parents to assist them.
They call me to say, okay, I need a place. I'm frustrated. I'm nearly giving up. You have to call everybody you know to get a pupillage spot. And so I know my time wasn't easy, but I don't wish I couldn't. I don't know how I will survive now.
Yeah, but it's true. We do get a lot of applications. Almost every day there are a few that are coming in asking for pupillage, and we can't take all of them.
Yes.
I think that's something that has, at least it just come out in this show now. It's food for thought for a few other heads in certain places.
It's a crisis. I imagine.
Sasa kutoka hapo ujifanya kazi kwa law firm tena?
Maybe that was it.
That was it.
Yeah, but maybe I was not built for it. But and I'm not looking forward to it anyway. No.
Yeah.
So the law firm experience wasn't good, and I haven't changed my mind. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think I'm built for it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll probably do something else. legal, but not in that sense. We go into court. I did, of course, have an opportunity to prosecute matters, copyright matters. Of course, the donation of the DPP. And at that time, of course, we were a new office. I had to defend a few civil matters.
Yeah.
But it's not a so while I would be able to defend, let's say, a criminal matter, I'm not sure that I would want to handle files, civil files. Yeah, so it is not. Yeah, not everybody is built for this. For that.
Yeah.
I think it takes. Yeah, once you are there, I'm not sure if you can also come on the side that we are. In-house counsel. It's not interesting for you as well. So I got used to this style of. Became a bureaucrat, state council, and then I'm managing now an office. Our offices are managed in a structured way. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you manage your law firm. I don't know. I see all those things about the taxation, the accountant statements.
Yeah.
I wonder how people.
Now, you obviously were a legal officer here for a while before you got into the executive. Did you take a course? I'm asking this in context of other lawyers who might be willing to take the same path. Did you take a course? If you did not, looking back, which part of your training in the legal journey impacted the most on that transition?
All right. For the purposes of my work here, my postgraduate program, the LLM, really helped me, really laid the foundation on IP. But since then, I've undertaken many courses. There are many courses available at the World Intellectual Property Organization website. There is a WIPO Academy. And people with an interest in the area of IP, I would really advise that they benefit from the mostly free programs that they have. I also did a few programs with SIDA, the Swedish International Development Agency, and USPTO, as a US Patent and Trademark Office. So in essence, really, what I'm saying is that people should have a readiness to learn all the time. And for the purpose of my management in government, my training for the purpose of provincial administration comes in handy, because you are trained about everything. So you already know how to handle procurement. You have to know how government works in financing. Which organization deals with what. Those they look mundane, but when you now come and have a sit here, you are able to manage many things with that background in mind. Because right now, if you look at procurement, it's now entirely the responsibility of the executive director. If anything goes wrong, I'm responsible. If they messed up, even the procurement professional messed up, I'm responsible. The buck stops with the CEOs now. And if you are approving a payment, there's also a process. The public finance management. If you exceed limits, you are on your own. Government doesn't tolerate pending bills or things that were not planned for and that came as urgent. Everything has to be planned. Everything has to be within the cap. So that training really assisted me to get into this role. Because for me, I was when I left administration, I joined State Council 1. That means the lowest category of. But with time, I was made the head of this office, Chief Legal Counsel. So age also played a factor. We are all in it because I was mature and I understood so many things of management. I could handle government planning. I could talk to other institutions outside. I could network. So those are other skills, really. I think you have to have some kind of people skills for you to be able to manage. Because ultimately you are managing people. You are managing. So in my role now, I'm not a lawyer, but law is an anchor. I have to think of the legal consequences of every act you do. If you have to make a decision on human resource, you have to think of what are the ramifications, what are the laws say. It helps. What is if there is a disciplinary process, what does the law say? What is the process of procurement? Of course, yeah. So everything really is legal. At the end of it all. That's why probably lawyers are good managers and administrators, for most part, because of that sense that they can be able to place their minds atop something and look at it in a eagle view, without really feeling, being sensitive about certain things. You really have a cold, focused, and decisive way of dealing with things as a legal person.
Sasa, tukiwa pale nje, as we're just coming in, we're having a conversation and this guy was asking me, hii kitu inaitwa KeCoBo ni nini? Then, as before you answer, I think this question is going to be threefold. One, you explain what KeCoBo is all about. The second thing, they're also asking, mbona KeCoBo iko hapa? Mbona kipi iko huko? Mbona kipi iko pamoja na trademarks? Mbona copyright iko peke yake? And then you also talk about, I think there's a bill that seeks to consolidate all of them. Maybe now you can answer it.
Okay. Ulianza na Kiswahili, tuende hapo ama
ni lugha ya taifa. Ni lugha ya katifa.
Sawa. Tunaongea hii Kizungu tu. Ndio Queen asikasirika.
It's a bit of jubilee.
This season you have to be good behavior. So, KeCoBo is an organization is a government agency, a specialized agency. So the government works in many ways. The government works through the civil service. And then in the civil service you find ministries and then departments and all that which execute a certain mandate. And they are organized by the president from time to time. Then there are now like about half of government also where certain roles have been set aside for agencies to deal with it in a specialized way. And KeCoBo is one of those specialized agencies where we call them parastatals. Sometimes people call them sagas. I don't know what the saga means, but I think state agency or something. There's another name that runs around without us knowing the full. So it's a parastatal.
Yeah.
The role is so it's been established under the Copyright Act. And Section 3 and Section 5 sets out what our role is. KeCoBo is basically like home of copyright. You know, like everything that you need to do with copyright, you can do it here.
Yeah.
So if you want to register copyright, KeCoBo has a way of registering that because it has the mandate of creating a database of authors and others. If you have a complaint, then KeCoBo can take up your matter. And so we have investigators here. And we used to have prosecutors here who would prosecute matters that have been investigated. So we have that mandate. If you have an issue with someone and you would like to have mediation, KeCoBo staff can mediate disputes. KeCoBo also has a role of awareness creation. That means KeCoBo is required by law to talk to the artists, make them understand how they can benefit from their copyright works, talk to the public about the benefits of copyright, and really avoiding some of the actions that would be considered infringing. And we do advise government on matters of copyright. That means in terms of if there is now a discussion in WIPO, like there are on the issues of, let's say, like now broadcasting, there is a broadcasting treaty under negotiation. We do attend those meetings and we come back and advise. If we sign those treaties, we are the ones who take the process for ratification. And then from ratification, we domesticate. Then we also need to grow the law. The law is not static. It's the responsibility of this office to ensure that the law changes with the times. Those amendments, most of them we do recommend, and others, of course, come as private members' bills. So we have a lot of work that we are required to do. So these are set out under the Copyright Act. Yeah, speaking about KIPI, Kenya Industrial Property Institute, and KeCoBo, and the prospects in the near future. All these offices came from the AGs. Yeah, if you went to where there is a registry, the AG's office, you know that short block.
Yeah.
You see at the top trademarks registry. Yeah, if you look in the trademarks registry. So that was so we had patents, trademarks, and copyright as sections under the registrar general. Then after Cameron, the former president created KIPI. I think it has changed names, but similar
mandate
abbreviation. Yes. So it was formed by the former president. So it left. So it went first for the purpose of patents, protecting Cameron, and then secondly, they added trademarks. So and then in 2001 they did the law of what they call the Industrial Property Act, and formally founded KIPI now. It had been founded by presidential decree. In 2001 now it was formed as formally as a. First of all, it had been formed as a department in the Ministry of Industry. Then then it was formally made specialized agency in 2001 legislation. So it deals with three matters: trademarks, patents, and trademark, patents, and designs.
Industrial designs.
Yes. So and it also the trademark law is much older, and it has been there for a while. So then, so later on, as I said, in 2008, 2006. At the end of 2006, KeCoBo was also taken out. It was a section under the registrar, and then we formed Kenya Copyright Board, as required under the Copyright Act of 2001 as well. Yeah. So we've been, I think 2013 again, for the purpose of addressing the third agency here. The Anti-Counterfeiting Act was I think it was done in 2008 or 2009, and then so it formed the Anti-Counterfeiting Agency, which changed now to Anti-Counterfeit Authority. Yeah. I think that the formation was around 2010 or so. Yes. Now these things are there by accident or historical accidents. Yeah. But now and that's why now when we have you mentioned the intellectual property bill, the main intention is to merge these organizations into one entity. I think they will be called Intellectual Property Office of Kenya or something. Yeah. Yeah. So that is the idea. It's to merge. So there are certain things we put in regarding the result, which is IPOC. I think when the matter goes to Parliament, we will see more. We do have experiences from other countries. Copyright is one of areas where many governments are prone to overlook, and in fused institutions, which IPOC will be, KeCoBo or copyright may really be a limited factor within it. Mainly because it doesn't bring income from registration and stuff, like trademarks do, like patents do, or designs do. We use the industrial property section of IP. So it's a process. We expect the new government will pick it up where the current administration has reached. So the idea is to merge. There will be certain advantages. There will be certain disadvantages. And we are waiting to see. Probably expecting the next administration to start the discussion again early next year.
So that I don't lose a point. On the same issue, you had talked about the Anti-Counterfeit Authority.
Yeah.
I think either a month or 2 months ago, there was a notice about the registration of
recordation.
Yeah, recordation. Yes. Now, because I think it is a proper conflict between that and what you guys normally do.
Yeah, we raised our concern, and we were not invited for public participation. Therefore, copyright is not compulsory. So what we have here is just what someone feels they want to put down.
Yeah.
And then of course there is a register of trademarks.
Yeah.
And there is also a register of patents. So when you ask a businessman who deals with a product that has a patent or a trademark, a copyright product, to be doing an annual process, it adds to the cost of doing business. It's a legal process. It has a cost implication. The proposed what I would have dealt with is that I would enhance the sharing of the register.
Yeah.
With ACA.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes, I think that would be the way forward. With the merger, of course, it means that the recordation will be history, because you have one organization who is recording trademarks, who is recording patents, who is recording designs, and actually registering copyrights. Also doing enforcement, so there is no justification for that multiplicity.
Yeah.
So we expressed our concern. It is something that probably ought to have been thought out better. Yeah, it is. I've seen a number of people asking the same questions. We share the same views. We are sister organizations, but in this case we do not approve of that procedure.
I'll ask a question. From a consumer perspective, not as a lawyer. So, like, clearly, what does KeCoBo or copyright protect? Number one. Number two, Mutua might know that you don't need to have it registered for it to be protected. But what's your take on that?
So the copyright really is about, I can call it the artist. What an artist must have or must get for doing the work or creating the work that they create. If you are an artist and you draw something, it is actually the right to be known as the owner of that drawing. If you wrote a book, it is the right to be known as the person who wrote that book. If you created a code, it is the right to be known as one person who coded or made it possible for the coding. If you took the photo, it is the right to be known as the person who made the photo possible. If you are the person who made arrangements for music to be produced, you have to be known as the person who made it possible for the music to be produced. So, in short, really, it's the right to be connected to our work. To be known, to have your name linked and recognized as the person against your work. And secondly, for that reason, then therefore, that you can make money of that work. It's about entitlement. Since you've made it, you are known. Your work your name is been linked to that work. You have to, therefore, you like the owner. You have the title deed to it. Then you have to make money of it. So it's And the idea behind copyright is that people will be happy to be known, to have contributed something to society, to the knowledge, and they would, because they have received payment, then therefore they would also happily produce more. And so it's about an incentivizing, it's an incentive scheme. Yeah? So if you do a good thing, people are happy, you will do another one. And if you see copyright is about enjoyment. You enjoy reading a book, you enjoy viewing a movie, you enjoy seeing artwork, sculptures, beautiful buildings, and software gives you convenience, and without this, the world would be a very dull place.
Interesting.
So copyright really carries a lot in real terms. It carries a big value in economic terms. Looking at, there have been studies there, done here and done elsewhere, showing the contribution of copyright industry to the economy. Kenya was 5.3%, and publishing was the biggest, probably close to 75% of the value of that. But if you look at the US economy, there will not be US as we know it without Hollywood, which is anchored by copyright. The publishing industry in the US contributes a lot to economies of some states and in towns in the US, in Paul, Ohio, something like that. You see, without publishing, there would be nothing. And the same in Europe and Japan. And so it's very key that this, respect for copyright and intellectual property is very important. You had also asked about, what was the second question?
Whether it needs to be prepared, to be registered, to be protected.
Okay. Now there are discussions about but the idea behind the non-compulsory system is a treaty called the Berne Convention for the protection of artistic, dramatic, and other works, and of 1886. And the treaty was influenced a lot by French philosophy. And they didn't want to make it hard for anyone to really get copyright. And so due to that legislation, while copyright registration is not compulsory, we would call it very desirable and highly recommend it. Because in a world where people pose as owners, and they have sold airports and stuff. You can imagine somebody can transact copyright, have a transfer done, a license done, without really a reference. So the idea behind having a certificate is that it gives you, it reassures you as the owner first. Okay. Yeah. So you have a logbook to your car. You have a title deed to your plot of land. But really, when we talk of copyright as an economic factor, you start thinking probably I'm not secure. So it reassures you to get a certificate. And we have made a process called the National Rights Registry. Quite easy, online, on our website. You do the process and get your certificate on your dashboard. Sometimes the same day. Yeah. So and you can also challenge what has been registered on our system. So it reassures you. It also reassures the person who is transacting with you. Yeah, because like now, if you mention a song of 70s and 80s, and you'll be told, okay, it was so and so. No, it was not so and so. It was so and so from that group, and someone else who did this. It's no record, and most of these guys probably are not alive anymore. They didn't live. I'm not sure how families in those circumstances undertake the process of succession. I can't imagine. So I would expect that if they had something written, like the contracts, and then now with the certificate, it would be easier to do the succession very well. It would be easy to do assignment, and also do this licensing.
Licensing,
Because at least you'll be, you don't have to rely on just the recitals.
A quick follow-up. Every now and then, some Kenyan artists usually post some of the money that they get from work that they have published, mostly music. It is joked in some other countries that you just need to make one popular song to make your life the easiest you can ever make it. Why is it so hard to make money as a Kenyan artist in the context of what the institutions is supposed to do?
All right. We don't actually manage anybody's rights, but so I'll be speculating to some extent.
So I should take you to task about that.
We don't, and then so in essence, sometimes comparing countries sometimes is hard because some are apples and some are pineapples.
What are we?
They are not the same. They are not exactly the same. So of course the size of the economy is a factor. Our consumption trend is a factor. Let's say in terms of economy, we don't have a lot of extra income, which now would translate into those things that would benefit an artist, in terms of our perception of copyright, a Kenyan would rather ask a friend to make them a copy than instead of buying. You would rather get maybe an illegal stream than to get a subscription. Yes, and that, of course, that is our role to tell people not to. But sometimes it's a struggle sometimes because
is it a capacity issue?
It's not a capacity issue. It's because that job is advocacy and it's psychological. That means it's not just saying, okay, under Section 38 it's an offense and you'll be jailed. Okay, where is the jail? We're not threatened Kenyans. So tell us where to put it. I'm following a lot of stuff on social media. You arrested that one. And so we You also come here in Advocacy, you arrest me. I'm here. Yes.
Kwa nyumba.
Kujeri.
You don't threaten them. So it's easy, and we, you know, so the process of advocacy is unique. It's about persuasion. So you need to be persuasive, and you need to deal with the emotional side rather than threats. So you have to say, so you have to start from the section on why is it that so and so is the owner? Why we should respect the owner? Why should pay for the owner? Those you give them reason to feel for the artist and change behavior. Yeah, so it's you don't have enough jails for everyone, and it's not a very good approach to just threaten or enforce. It can boomerang. So the idea is so it's our role to do that change behavior change. It's a process, and you need money. If you need to change, like now, many countries have programs like we do have, but it's targeting schools. Yeah? That means you catch them early, you explain to them early, they would be able, they would have it in their minds. Yeah? So it's really just to have a spot in the mind. They will remember our stories and that. So then we need to act this way or that way. So it's not about. So we of course we don't have that resources. If we did, I've been negligent of my work so far. I would have been fired if I had the money and did not do that. But we do have material that we have created. We adapted a comic book, which we do distribute and to when we engage with them, which explain about copyright and why. So it's about really. It's not. So it's not going to TV and say respect copyright. I'm out of fungwa, So that is there. So it's a very delicate balance. Ukikosa kwenda hivi ama pande nyingine, you waste time. Yeah.
Sasa, just to build on what Johnson asked, you can say you can answer the parts that I think because of certain legal ramifications you can answer it in certain ways. Kuna hii vita yenu na CEOs. Maybe I think that the case might be still ongoing.
Yes, sure.
Maybe you can talk to a certain limits on what to talk about that situation.
I'll be very brief on that. Our role, one other role that I didn't mention is the oversight of the CMO. That means license, and we do offer annual licenses.
Maybe you can mention the CMO. So
Music Copyright Society of Kenya, Kenya Association of Music Producers, and Performance Rights Society. Those are three in the music sector. There are certain standards that we have set, and for them to be licensed, they have to prove that they've met those standards. Due to our dissatisfaction, we took away their licenses sometimes last year. So it's not. So it's not really vita yenu. Such it is about our regulatory function. And I keep saying it's nothing personal. If their clients are happy, I would be happy. I don't have any problem. I have a lot on my table as it is.
Yeah.
So sometimes people have put it that way, or that it's a fight. Let me put it this way again. Then therefore that if you have a case in that has been registered at Central Police Station, and I'm the OCS, and tomorrow I go to Garissa, or I retire, your case doesn't cease to exist.
Yeah.
The law doesn't cease to exist because the OCS left. Just but an agent of the organization that I work for. That organization is Kenya Copyright Board, and the organization also has a structure. It has a management and the board that that is multi-sector, stakeholder type board. So if I hated the CMOs in a previous board, do I hate them again with the current board, a different board? Yeah. So there is a Copyright Act. There are regulations that are CMO regulations. So, and if we've overstepped, there are processes of dealing with overstepping. So, in essence, what I'm saying is, I think we need to be honest about having a honest discussion about it. It's nothing personal. We all live, we shall live, but when the members begin to benefit, you'll hear you won't hear about KeCoBo at all, asking questions.
Yes.
Yes, that is the idea. Because KeCoBo is the artists may not have the voice, may not have the leverage. They don't have ability to organize. As a body, as the head of a body that has been established to administer copyright matters, including CMO, I would be very negligent to ignore any blatant violation of the standards that have been set. And I think our commitment is really that we need money that has been collected to go to the artists. That's all. So the CMOs feel that they are working well enough in the circumstances. We do differ. Yes.
Sasa, it's a very difficult one. But I think it's public knowledge. It's one of those things that we speak it as banter, and we never bring the issue here. We talked about standards, about the CMOs having standards. I think I was in one of the spaces that was being hosted by Trace.
Oh yes.
Yes, and there was a very heated argument about one CMO. And the argument, one of the arguments being made, and I think most creatives have been putting this argument that KeCoBo had a moral right when it comes to certain appointments in certain institutions, in certain CMOs. They have a higher voice. And the argument was that there are certain individuals that once they are placed in certain institutions, they stifle creativity. They start become moral policemen, become deputy Jesus, trying to do all these things. So there's been a lot of a pointer towards you. Why didn't you stop a few things here from happening?
I think it's quite simple, really. That.
Oh, and there were integrity issues as well.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Those issues, yes. Without going directly, you just need to point out that CMOs are companies limited. So they are companies limited by guarantee. That means they have board of directors, they hold AGMs, they make decisions. And as an oversight authority, we sometimes have to maintain arm's length in terms of
corporate veil.
Otherwise, then we'd be responsible for anything that will happen. So, in short, it's never been within our power or practice to object to any appointment. So people who make certain appointments are solely responsible for those appointments, and they, of course they can justify them why they did that. So it's a sovereign decision which we do respect, and wish them well. You can't do anything about it. It's like saying the regulator for banks saying, Bank X cannot appoint XYZ or something like that. So it has not reached that stage in terms of copyright to object. But given the fiduciary responsibilities, probably it could in future. Yes, because it's really very tough, to sit aside and watch happening. And seeing the resources being collected in your name, because they will collect it, and the public will ask, who gave you authority? They say KeCoBo gave us authority, or the courts give us authority. So ultimately, someone else has to ask the question about certain decisions being made by organizations in this area. So it's an evolving area. Yes, we could put it at that.
You mentioned banks. So, and in banks and also other financial regulators, they do have a criteria for the people who their licenses appoint. So there's a fitness and probity process. Is that something you've thought about?
Yes. And I think there's an element of it in our regulations.
Okay.
We look forward to really enforcing it very, very much. But we looked at it on the perspective of the board, rather than the perspective of the management itself. So we were looking at reform in the corporate sector, the boardroom, rather than the management suite.
One last question. It's called we have a new amendment, I think, to Section 35.
Oh yeah, actually it passed. It was pulled down before.
The Gladys Wanga.
Yes. Yeah, but you can ask about it. Yeah?
So maybe you could talk about briefly highlight it.
So in 2017 we made extensive changes to the copyright law, and among others there was what you call internet service provider liability provision, which is a very key tool the digital environment for the owner of our copyright work. So in last year we got wind that Gladys Wanga, through a private member's bill, wanted to repeal the provisions that were just signed into law in 2019. We therefore swung into action with a number of our partners, and we made her see our point of view, and she withdrew the intended repeal. It was really not a repeal as such. It was a small mutilation, because it's one of those things where you pick. It's like you see a living cow and you take the heart and you also remove the liver and the kidney.
But you put it on life support.
No, and you walk away.
You let it exist.
Yeah, but really, how would that animal exist?
Yeah.
How would the ISP provisions be there when you've taken the key provisions?
Yeah.
It was a mutilation. And we objected, and it thankfully didn't pass, and other provisions in that bill went through, and it was signed into law in February. So the thing is really, sometimes if we are not vigilant, things can happen in the frameworks that we look after. And somebody spoke about it in the light of the ICT practitioners thing. And they said that, especially in the final year of term, strange things can pass. So that was one of those strange things. It was really a blatant attempt at really mutilating this thing, while giving a reason, we need to have the ISPs working well, but the legislation has been it's a copyright legislation. The legislation looks at everything from the perspective of the owner, the rights holder. When you now start saying, okay, people should not be responsible for certain things, and that is the practice globally. We have reason to be suspicious. We really, I've never been angrier than at that time. That this I don't know. But we really put in a very tough-worded memorandum, and thankfully the industry came together and people spoke. So it was a very, I think that was a nasty episode, I would put it, in my tenure here.
And were you happy with the schizo?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Yes, the share ratio.
Yes, the share ratio
is fine. Now is the implementation. I think I saw the memorandums from one of the telcos, and they were not sure if it could work, but we hope it will work. I think it should be month 2 now since we did. I haven't had anybody complain that they have not been paid at the rates that was set by government. Because then it would raise significant questions.
Are they aware that? Are the creatives aware of those?
Yes, I think that was why I was so angry with the removal of the motion, right, with the sponsor of that motion, because the removal of the motion put in something sweet, attractive. And that ordinarily a rights holder will have their eyes on.
Yeah.
And after that, they will not have anything. They will not go deeper. Hidden below it was that ISP repeal.
Yeah.
So it was really, it's very, I think, it was not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people praised it. There's a bill here by so and so. It's good. It's good. Is how government is working. Meanwhile, there are sharp knives and dangerous contraband within it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if they had consumed it as it is, they would have no rights as such, because at this point in time, digital environment, if you don't have the instruments, you don't have like those ones of ISP liability, you have nothing there. Yeah. Yes.
So you will protest if it's assented to?
No. Parliament, the committee removed
that
it.
one part.
Yeah. She actually withdrew it at the committee when you are the public participation. We were not convinced and we wanted more. But fortunately, she kept her side of the bargain. But it was not only going to affect us. Yeah, like Kamau Njoroge to protect.
And Mutua.
But it was also going to affect a lot of people have an interest in our legal framework. Our trading partners, those who intend to invest here, they have a vested interest in where our framework is heading. Yes, some of them are also asking those questions. It would have had trade consequences, in my view. So sometimes when we have to be careful, think through what we are trying to do. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Without considering the whole thing. There has to be a thought process. Fortunately, in the committees, at least the two parliaments I've seen, this one and the other one before it, they listen. They are well informed. Especially, I've worked a lot with the ICT committee, and I don't know even how this legislation that is being discussed currently went through. They are very level-headed people. They're asking when you go there, they're asking you a question. They're asking you, what will the impact be? What is the reasoning behind? They give you language. How would it be if we had this language instead of that? Have you resolved something related? They are a very analytical process. So even then, probably that's why they move the sponsor back down, because they couldn't provide that. Yes. Yes.
Haya, kuna kitu kingine imebakia. Tumepiga story na CEO tukamaliza na story imeisha. See you on the next episode of Wakili Quick One. Cheers.
Cheers.
Na hii Wakili Quick One unafaa kulipwa ama Wakili Quick One hiyo ya hapo ni